Kevin was surprised to be asked to the offices of real estate mogul Gwen Archer, an enemy from his early days in Chicago when he was building his empire. Though Gwen supposedly was offering Kevin an opportunity to invest in one of her development ventures, she was actually testing Kevin to see if the potion given to her by Vincent Reeves worked. Did he have any memories of her in the upper realm? Satisfied that he didn't, Gwen also reported to Vincent that it seemed like Kevin's level 7 powers might have been disrupted by his time traveling through portals and battling in the upper realm. Kevin sent his and Lily's suitcases down in the entryway of the Wrigley mansion and looked around in appreciation. The huge house served as the mayor's mansion for the city of Chicago. It was located in the Lincoln Park area and had been built at the turn of the last century. As an expert in antiques, Kevin appreciated the exotic woods, fine marble, and exceptional stained glass windows by Louis Tiffany that lavishly decorated the historic building. "This place is really something, isn't it?" he said to Lily, who was also gazing around and enjoying the view. Lily smiled. "Nothing but the best for the mayor of Chicago." "I think this will be good for us," Kevin told her. "I love our place in the suburbs, but you have to admit that there's a certain energy to being in the heart of the city again." "I think I will certainly feel closer to my constituents living here," Lily agreed. Kevin put his arm around Lily's waist and pulled her in close. "Might be nice to get away from the hustle and bustle in her own house, too. We've got so many people living with us, sometimes I feel like it's impossible to get a moment alone with you. It'll be great to have this whole place all to our—" Kevin was interrupted when the door at his back opened and slammed into them. Lily's mother, Dorothy, marched in. Behind her, a small army of taxicab drivers shuffled in carrying her luggage. Dorothy looked around. "What a dump! Haven't they ever heard of upgrades? What this place needs is some bright white paint and a couple of pieces of that convenient flat pack furniture. You know, the stuff from the place that sells the really good meatballs." "Dorothy," Kevin exclaimed, "what are you doing here?" "I live here, you brainless wonder," Dorothy snapped. "Do you think I would abandon my little girl when she needs her mother the most? Lily is going to need as much help as possible when she tries to be the mayor and still take care of herself. Obviously, we can't count on you to do that. We never know when you're going to pull one of your vanishing acts again." "This isn't what we discussed," Kevin began to say to Lily, but Dorothy had already pulled Lily away to talk about further changes to the mayor's mansion. Dorothy was just going on about vertical blinds when the door behind Kevin opened again. This time it was his own parents, Alan and Susan Williams, who entered. They had the Williams family's pets with them. The dog, Hank, was on a plaid leash and Missy the cat was curled up in a padded carrier. Alan and Susan's luggage was more modest, but still was more than they would need for a simple overnight stay. "Not you guys too," Kevin groaned. "Why, Kevin, whatever do you mean?" his mother said. "Your father and I thought this would be an excellent opportunity to spend some time in the city, especially since this place is just chock full of bedrooms that would otherwise be going to waste." "You don't mind, do you, son?" Alan Williams asked Kevin. Kevin sighed and put on a smile for his parents. "Of course not. As long as it is okay with the boss of Chicago, it's okay with me." Kevin hooked a thumb at Lily. "Don't be silly, Kevin," his mother laughed. "Of course we've already cleared it with dear Lily." Kevin watched as his parents climbed up the stairs to pick out their bedroom. He turned to lock the door before there were any other invasions. Unfortunately, he wasn't fast enough. The door flew open a third time, nearly taking off Kevin's nose. Nancy, Lily's pregnancy pal, rushed in. Her face was streaked with tears and mascara. Nancy slammed the door and leaned back against it as if she was holding it shut against an invading army. "Where's Lily?" Nancy demanded. "I must talk to Lily as soon as possible." Lily had heard the commotion and had come to see what was causing it. "Nancy? Oh dear. What on earth has happened to make you this upset?" Lily immediately wanted to know. Nancy flung herself into Lily's arms. "Please, you must help me. My life is in danger." Lily ordered tea to be brought from the kitchen, distracted her mom by asking her to do an inventory of the mansion attics to see what they already had to work with, and told Kevin to take Hank for a walk. Then she hustled Nancy into her office and shut the door so Nancy could pour her heart out to her, as she had done so many times during her roller coaster of a pregnancy. "Now just take a deep breath and tell me exactly what is going on." Lily handed her friend a box of tissues. "It's awful, just awful. I was out minding my own business, just doing a little shopping for baby things." Nancy gave her fake baby bump a pat, when all of a sudden this great big brute of a man accosted me in the parking lot. He even put a gun in my face. "That's terrible. Was he trying to mug you? A pregnant lady held up in broad daylight? I can't believe something like this would happen in my city. I'm going to have to do something about the crime around here," Lily decided. Lily took her responsibilities as mayor of Chicago very seriously. "Oh, it wasn't a mugging," Nancy waved Lily's concerns away. "The man who accosted me said he was Sid Magnolia's brother and he's blaming me for his brother's death." Lily was astonished. "But you didn't have anything to do with Sid's death. He tried to carjack us and I was the one who broke his arm right before he keeled over dead. And then the coroner couldn't prove that his death was related to the broken arm." "That's what I told Sid's brother," Nancy exclaimed. "He didn't seem to want to listen. I only got away from him because some people came by and scared him off." Nancy reached over Lily's desk and took her hand. "Sid's brother was an army ranger. He's a dangerous man. Please, please, Lily, you have to let me stay here." Lily frowned in confusion. "But our house in the suburbs is perfectly safe. It has a state-of-the-art security system, and even though Kevin and I will only be there on the weekends, the members of the Radiants will still be patrolling night and day." Nancy dabbed at her dry eyes with a tissue. "I keep trying to tell myself the same thing. It just doesn't help. I know I would feel so much safer if I was staying here with you and Kevin. I haven't been able to sleep a wink since it happened, and you know that can't be good for the baby. I mean babies." Nancy patted her fake bump again, which had swelled considerably since Nancy had found out she'd need to be faking a double pregnancy to keep up with Lily. "We can't have that. Rest is so important for an expectant mother." Lily nodded her head decisively. "Of course, you can stay here. There's plenty of room in the mayor's mansion." "Oh, thank you, Lily." Nancy squeezed Lily's hand. "You're the best pregnancy pal a girl could have. There's just one other thing," Nancy said as she lowered her head as if she was embarrassed. "You know I'm happy to help you in any way I can." Lily squeezed Nancy's hand back. "Just say the word." "It's just that the move will be so expensive. You know, there are always a dozen things you don't realize you need until you're in a new place, and then they add up so quickly. And now that I have to plan for 2 babies, my budget has gotten so tight." Nancy glanced back at Lily to see if Lily was buying her story. "That's easy enough to solve." Lily smiled and opened her wallet and took out a credit card. She handed it to Nancy. "This card has no limit. Feel free to charge anything you need for yourself for the babies while you're staying in the mayor's mansion." "Thank you," Nancy exclaimed. "You don't know how much easier this will make my life." Kevin was enjoying his walk with Hank the dog immensely. He so rarely had the opportunity to take a nice stroll through the city. People smiled and waved as Kevin and Hank passed by. One woman called out, "Hey, look, isn't that the mayor's husband?" Kevin smiled and waved. "That's me. You can just call me the first gentleman of the city of Chicago." "Guess you can kick back and let your wife bring home the bacon for once," one man called out jokingly. "And I'm happy to fry it up in a pan," Kevin agreed, although he could only wish that was actually the case. As he crossed the street and turned into the North Pond Nature Sanctuary, Kevin mentally went over all the irons he currently had in the fire. Williams Media's first feature film would start filming on location soon, and Kevin still had several other loose ends to tie up in Los Angeles. Kevin's evil doppelganger DK may still be running amok somewhere, and Kevin was sure he hadn't seen the last of Vincent Reeves. And now Kevin also had the quest to find the person who would be taking over as the keeper of the White Tower in the Upper Realm. It was a good thing Kevin was up for a challenge. He led Hank into the enclosed off-leash dog park overlooking the North Pond in the middle of the nature sanctuary. Kevin unhooked Hank's leash, and the dog ran off to make some new doggy friends. Kevin noticed a crowd of men also entering the enclosure. Good, Kevin thought. More friends for Hank. But then he noticed none of the men had canine companions with them. "There he is," one of the men yelled. "That's Kevin Williams in the Dopey Dockers and Keds. He's our target." Kevin immediately prepared himself for a fight. The men whom Kevin knew had to be Maverick agents flooded into the dog park. There were at least 50 of them. Kevin had easily defeated this many foes before, but he was concerned for the few civilians and their pets who were now trapped in the enclosure with him and the Mavericks. Kevin reached out with his senses as the Mavericks approached. All of them were at least level 5. Kevin would just have to take these men out as quickly as possible to eliminate the threat to the innocent people nearby. Kevin reached for his own powers. His 7 levels would easily defeat these fighters. But when Kevin searched inside himself, he found nothing. No powers, not a single level. Kevin's eyes went wide. Had his levels not returned to him when he had come back from the upper realm? Kevin returned to Chicago with a mission to locate the next keeper of the White Tower of the upper realm before the current one dies. Unfortunately, Kevin still has to deal with a number of domestic issues before he can begin his search. Lily gave in to pressure from the city and moved into the mayor's mansion. Kevin joined her, but then so did their families and friends, including Lily's mother Dorothy, her pregnancy pal Nancy, and their pets Missy the cat and Hank the dog. Kevin took Hank to a nearby urban dog park, only to be set upon by 50 Mavericks, all of whom were at least level 5s. When Kevin reached for his own levels to defend the dog park's innocent bystanders, Kevin realized that he could no longer access any of his levels. For a moment, Kevin could only stare in shock as his enemies pulled on masks and bore down on him. Had Kevin's levels not returned to him when he had come back from the upper realm? Kevin had lost his levels when he entered the upper realm, but he had expected that. Even though Kevin had not been able to refine his levels as he planned during his stay there, Kevin's levels should have been returned to him when he came back to the ordinary world. But now Kevin couldn't sense his own levels at all. Were they gone for good? Were they... Kevin's thoughts were interrupted as the first of the Mavericks ran at him, yelling challenges. Kevin Williams was a legend in these circles. His reputation was already that of one of the greats. Although their employer had assured these Mavericks that Kevin would be at his weakest, they still required petty tricks to psych themselves up to fight Kevin. Kevin dodged away from the attackers, relying on his ordinary martial artistry and superior reflexes. He reached out to his loyal pet, Hank the dog, with his mind. He ordered Hank to start herding the innocent dog owners and their pets to the far corner of the enclosed area. The last thing Kevin wanted was a civilian, human, or canine getting caught in the crossfire. Fortunately, Hank had a sheepdog somewhere in his ancestry and was happy to obey. Kevin made a quick survey of the area. If he couldn't fight without his levels, he would have to improvise his defense from what was already there. Kevin dashed to the nearest water fountain. He turned it on full blast and aimed the spout of water directly into the eyes and faces of the 2 Mavericks closest to him. The force of water made the Mavericks cough and sputter. Kevin picked up a complimentary water dish and flung it at the 2 men like a frisbee. The hard metal edge connected with the bridge of one's nose before bouncing off to conk the other one upside the head. The 2 Mavericks fell to the ground. But more Mavericks were coming for him. Kevin ran in a zigzag path, avoiding the knives and ninja stars that they threw after him. A large metal basket of well-chewed tennis balls had been thoroughly provided for the dogs. Kevin scooped it up and flung the contents at his attackers' feet. The Mavericks all trod on the tennis balls, which rolled under their feet and sent them sprawling to the ground. Kevin made short work of them while they were down, delivering sharp blows with the basket to each of their heads in turn. Kevin heard a flurry of barks from the dogs as the next set of Mavericks closed in upon him. Kevin understood that the dogs, especially Hank, were desperate to lend their support to Kevin in his time of need. Kevin gratefully accepted the help of some of the largest and fiercest breeds. While Kevin kept the attention of the Mavericks on himself, he directed the dogs to attack his foes from the rear. Hank, along with 2 pit bulls, a Doberman, and a St. Bernard the size of a small pony, who freed themselves from their owner's grasps, threw themselves at the Mavericks. The surprise attack was a complete success. Hank and the Doberman intimidated the Mavericks with their razor-sharp teeth. The pit bulls each clamped onto a Maverick's leg and held on tightly, their powerful jaws shredding muscle and bone. The St. Bernard pounced on one Maverick after another, knocking them to the ground. The Mavericks were left stunned from the force of the blow as well as the gallon of slobber the big dog unleashed on each of them. Only a few Mavericks remained. Kevin could sense that these were the weakest of the bunch. They had obviously held back out of a sense of cowardice, hoping their more powerful friends would take out the great Kevin Williams. These Mavericks charged Kevin. Kevin's ordinary but highly refined martial arts skills were enough to deal with these jokers. Kevin grabbed the lead Maverick by an arm and a leg and spun him in a circle. The Maverick bashed into his fellows, knocking them to the ground stunned. Kevin finished by dumping the Maverick still in his grasp into the nearest trash can with a squish. The trash can was thoughtfully labeled, "Thank you for cleaning up after your dog." There was only one enemy left standing. Kevin reached out with his senses, expecting to get a sense of this last fighter's abilities and levels. Instead, what he got was a confused jumble of impressions. There was power here for sure, but it had been twisted and corrupted beyond anything Kevin had sensed before. "You're no ordinary Maverick fighter," Kevin proclaimed. The Maverick tore off his mask, revealing himself to be none other than Vincent Reeves. "I guess the upper realm wasn't the experience that you thought it would be." Vincent sneered at Kevin. "And I guess that the lower realm wasn't the experience you thought it would be either," Kevin shot back. A long time ago, Kevin had cut off one of Vincent's hands after Vincent had accosted him and tried to wrest Kevin's night dagger from him in a vengeful act. More recently, Kevin had encountered Vincent in the lower realm. There, Kevin had sliced off Vincent's other hand. Vincent now wore a prosthesis at the end of each arm. One was a razor-sharp hook, the other was a lead ball studded with wickedly sharp spikes. "Still more than a match for you," Vincent declared. He swiped at Kevin with first the hook and then the ball. "Especially now that your levels are still scrambled from your trip back through the portal from the upper realm. Not a comfortable experience, was it?" The trip back had indeed been hellish for Kevin, a seemingly endless vision of his failures and enemies, both real and imagined. But Vincent's words also gave Kevin hope. Apparently his levels weren't really gone. Kevin just had to locate the power within himself and get it sorted out. Only Kevin's superior reflexes allowed him to duck out of the way of first the one and then the other of Vincent's blows. Vincent kept coming, driving Kevin back until he was up against the chain-link fence separating the dog park from the pond. "I've got you now," Vincent crowed. He swung with both weapons at once. Since Kevin had nowhere left to maneuver, Vincent was confident he could finally take out Kevin Williams. But even as Kevin was ducking and dodging, he continued to search within himself. He was sure his powers were still there, and not only because of Vincent's words. Kevin was sure he would have known long before now if his levels had been gone entirely. At last, buried deep within a corner of himself that Kevin hadn't even entirely been aware of, Kevin found his levels. He reached for them and found them in a jumbled mass, but didn't have time to sort them out in a sleek stream of power. Instead, Kevin unleashed his powers directly at Vincent in a tangled mass. It was easily his worst directed use of power ever, unfocused and inefficient, but it also did the trick. Vincent was blown back 20 feet to land on his butt on top of a pile of dog poo. To add insult to injury, a tiny chihuahua, annoyed that it hadn't been able to join the fight earlier, ran up to Vincent and began to pee on him. "I'm not as helpless as you think," Kevin told Vincent. "This is why you will never truly be master of any power, Vincent. You lack the patience and humility to make sure your plan will work before implementing it." "Haven't you done enough to me already, Kevin?" Vincent pleaded from his soggy place on the ground. "You already took both my hands. What more can you take from me?" "You've made this impossible for me," Kevin said as he shook his head sadly. "Time and again, you've proven that you're unwilling to give up your petty plans of vengeance. I cannot allow you to continue like this." Vincent saw the cold determination in Kevin's eyes and knew his own death was near. Vincent snatched up the little Chihuahua who had just finished emptying his doggy bladder all over him. "Hey, Kevin," Vincent yelled. "Fetch!" Vincent lodged the little Chihuahua into the air directly towards the pond beyond the fence. The Chihuahua let out a howl of terror. "My fur baby!" the dog's owner cried in horror. If Kevin took the time to finally eliminate Vincent as a threat forever, the innocent canine would drown in the pond, if the force of the impact didn't kill it outright. But saving the dainty dog would mean Vincent would have the chance to go free. Kevin didn't waste a moment debating with himself. He launched himself over the fence. Several people had been out on the pond with stand-up paddle boards and had come ashore to see what the commotion in the dog park was. Kevin grabbed one of the boards and harnessed all of the force of his power to toss it out onto the lake. He followed up by launching himself onto the board, landing lightly as it still skimmed across the surface of the water. Kevin had timed it perfectly. The board came to a stop just as the aerial Chihuahua was losing altitude. Kevin caught the dog gently in his arms, and the Chihuahua let off a small arf of surprise. Cheers went up from all of the bystanders. Kevin paddled himself and the Chihuahua back to the shore with his hands. The Chihuahua stood on the front tip of the board like a doggy masthead. The crowd greeted Kevin at the shoreline. The Chihuahua's owner covered Kevin and her pet with grateful kisses. Kevin was not at all surprised to see that in the commotion, Vincent Reeves had disappeared. Kevin returned to Chicago with a mission to locate the next keeper of the White Tower of the Upper Realm before the current one dies. Unfortunately, Kevin still has to deal with a number of domestic issues before he can begin his search. Lily gave in to pressure from the city and moved into the mayor's mansion. Kevin joined her, but then so did their families and friends, including Lily's mother Dorothy, Lily's pregnancy pal Nancy, and their pets, Missy the cat and Hank the dog. Kevin took Hank to a nearby dog park only to be set upon by 50 Mavericks. Kevin defeated the Mavericks and the man who had hired him, his old enemy Vincent Reeves. Kevin collected Hank the dog and reattached his leash. He modestly waved off the thanks and cheers from the people who had seen him defeat 50 highly trained fighters single-handed, after which he saved a Chihuahua from a watery death. The Chihuahua's grateful owner was particularly grateful to Kevin and lavished thanks on him. Kevin made his way out of the dog park just as ambulances were starting to arrive to collect the unconscious and injured Mavericks. Unfortunately, Vincent had escaped while Kevin was busy saving the tiny dog. Normally, Kevin would stay to help the authorities sort everything out, but Kevin was wet and muddy from his battle and his time on the lake. He wanted to get back to the mayor's mansion and think about everything that had happened. Kevin got cleaned up in the master suite in the mayor's mansion. He had just donned fresh Dockers, Keds, and a shirt. The light in the walk-in closet began flickering with a blue fire. Kevin knew what that meant. For once, he looked forward to having it out with his mysterious visitor. "I know you're here," Kevin called out. He peered around the walk-in closet. His clothes took up only a small corner of it. Lily's suits, dresses, and accessories took up most of the rest. A rack of shimmering evening gowns parted as the Night King stepped through them. Kevin, "You have returned from the Upper Realm at last," the Night King pronounced in his usual solemn tones. "Although I think your time on that plane of consciousness did not quite go the way you thought it would." "I never thought that I had the Upper Realm all figured out," Kevin agreed. "And you did try to warn me of its trials and its dangers, but even you couldn't have known how far things have gone awry there." The Night King shook his head sadly. "Never in all of the millennia that the Upper Realm has existed has it been shrouded in such troubles. No one could have ever dreamed that an interloper would somehow be able to reach the Upper Realm without first achieving the correct state of mind." He took a step closer to Kevin. "But right now, all of your focus must be on finding the next keeper of the White Tower before Alohi's life comes to an end." Alohi, the keeper of the White Tower of the Upper Realm, had suffered greatly from the disarray caused by the interloper. In the same way that the entire plane of existence had suffered, Alohi had suffered too. Then she was kidnapped by Kevin's evil doppelganger, DK, and dragged into the lower realm. Kevin, with the help of the other denizens of the upper realm, had rescued Elohi, but she appeared to be dead. Some of Kevin's invaluable herbal remedies and a heart transplant from a generous octopus had restored Elohi to life, but nothing could restore her to full health again. Before Kevin left the upper realm, Elohi told him that she was dying and that Kevin must find her successor back in the ordinary plane. She granted Kevin an extraordinary gift, allowing him to keep his memories of events and her own words when he returned to the mundane world. However, even Elohi didn't know exactly how long her life would last at this point.
Elohi has been the keeper of the White Tower of the Upper Realm for hundreds of years, the Night King said as he lowered his head in respect. That she and her reign as the overseer of the realm should be cut so short is very sad indeed.
But how short? Kevin asked. I'm sad for Elohi too, but she sent me on a quest to find her successor. It would help to know how much time I have.
Time does not work the same in the upper realm as it does on this plane,
the Night King told Kevin, which Kevin knew firsthand himself.
You do have some time, and finding the next successor will not be a complete or easy task to carry out.
Kevin threw his hands up in frustration. Not simple is the understatement of the year. I have no idea where to start or how to identify the next keeper of the White Tower of the Upper Realm. For all I know, that Chihuahua I rescued today could be the next keeper. As usual, the Night King ignored Kevin's frustration and exasperation.
In the normal course of things, the next keeper would be found naturally in the fullness of time. They would grow and develop, cultivate their powers, and face the challenges that would prove his or her worthiness to take up the position.
That's all out the window now, isn't it? Kevin asked.
Much of the usual ways of doing things are disrupted, the Night King agreed. But the successor must be found. Once they are, the test will be set, and the test will either be passed or failed. Nothing can change that.
Kevin hated to ask the question, but felt he must. And if the supposed successor does not pass the tests? What if the supposed successor fails?
Then the upper realm will fail as well. The entire plane of existence will cease to be. Nobody will ever be able to achieve the highest levels possible or refine them to the point of full mastery. Worse than that, it will create a terrible imbalance.
The Night King looked grimmer than ever. How so? Kevin wanted to know. The Night King indicated 3 levels with his hands, lower, middle, and upper.
Right now, the 3 realms are all powerful. That keeps each of them in balance. The upper realm pulls those inspired by the highest ideals, justice, fairness, mastery. The lower realm attracts those inspired by humankind's worst impulses, greed, jealousy, and hate. Between them, they keep the middle realm exactly where it should be.
The Night King held his hands one above the other with several inches in between.
Imagine the middle realm suspended between the upper and the lower. But if the upper realm fails, its influence will disappear and then...
The Night King removed his upper hand only to let his lower hand drop sharply.
The lower realm will drag the middle realm down to its level, and all of humanity will descend into greed, jealousy, and hate.
Kevin's eyes went wide. What you're talking about sounds like the perfect conditions for the Pinnacle to finally succeed in taking over the entire world.
The Night King looked grim. The rise of the Pinnacle will be the fall of the Foundation.
But that's everything I've been working against all this time. Kevin felt his heart sink. Everything I have done has been to protect the Foundation and secure a safe and happy future for my darling wife Lily and our unborn children.
That is correct, Kevin Williams.
The Night King nodded solemnly.
Never before has the future of your family and the entire world been in more danger.
There must be some way you can help me, Kevin exclaimed. I have no idea where to start to look for Elohi's successor. I don't even have the smallest hint. There must be something you can tell me.
The secrets of the upper realm must be protected, even from you, Kevin.
Kevin wanted to argue. He was so tired of the Night King's cryptic and only partially helpful messages. If the Night King cared at all about any of this, why wouldn't he just give Kevin useful information outright? But before Kevin could open his mouth, the Night King was continuing. "But I can give you some good advice. Go back to the source." "The source of what?" Kevin demanded. "The source of the upper realm? The source of the White Tower? The source of Elohi herself?" But the Night King had already faded from view, leaving Kevin alone again in the closet. Kevin thought desperately. He had no idea what the source of the upper realm was. The same with the source of the White Tower. He knew almost nothing about Elohi herself. The keeper of the White Tower of the upper realm never spoke of herself in Kevin's presence. Kevin thought about what little he had gleaned about her. Her clothes were completely unexceptional, of no particular time or place. He had come across a small statue in her room at the top of the White Tower. Kevin's experience with antiquities enabled him to immediately identify it as a pre-colonial wooden carving from Polynesia. The carving indicated that this statue was of an important spiritual leader and that it was unmistakably Elohi. Kevin also remembered that Elohi had worn an orchid in her hair. Kevin had used the orchid while in the lower realm to create the alternate state herbal pill. Perhaps he could put those two clues together and figure out where and when Elohi had come from originally. It was the best start he had. Kevin was pretty sure he still had a petal from the orchid in his satchel of herbal remedies that he had brought back with him from the upper realm. He checked the petal against several botanical references but couldn't find an exact match. The closest matches he could find were from the Hawaiian Islands. That matched what he knew of Elohi from the statue. Kevin could foresee he would soon have to make a trip to the tropical paradise, but not until he attended to several issues in Chicago, including Lily's next prenatal checkup. Kevin returned to Chicago with a mission to locate the next keeper of the White Tower of the Upper Realm before the current one dies. A visit from the Night King had Kevin planning to visit the Hawaiian Islands to try to uncover more clues about the current keeper Elohi. Unfortunately, Kevin still has to deal with a number of domestic issues before he can begin his search. Lily gave in to pressure from the city and moved into the mayor's mansion. Kevin joined her, but then so did their family and friends, including Lily's mother Dorothy, her pregnancy pal Nancy, and their pets, Missy the cat and Hank the dog. But will so many changes impact Lily's pregnancy? Although Kevin was anxious to work on his mission to find the next keeper of the White Tower of the Upper Realm, being in Chicago at least allowed him to accompany his darling wife Lily to her next prenatal visit with their friend and physician, Dr. Serafina Willow. Kevin tenderly held Lily's hand as Dr. Serafina moved the sonogram wand over Lily's belly. Lily's baby bump had swelled considerably in recent weeks. That was understandable, as Lily and Kevin were expecting the double blessing of twin babies, one boy and one girl. Dr. Willow turned the sonogram monitor so that Kevin and Lily could see the images of the babies. "Here we go," Dr. Willow said as she pointed to the screen. "You can see the baby girl's head here, and this shape over there, that's your baby boy." "And they still look like they are healthy and growing normally?" Lily asked anxiously. "Absolutely. Lily, I've never seen a healthier pregnancy, especially considering you are carrying twins," Serafina assured Lily, who was now more a friend than a patient. She picked up a clipboard and reviewed Lily's latest medical test results. "You've even put on muscle mass during your second trimester. That's almost unheard of. There's nothing for you to be worried about." But Lily still looked worried. Kevin frowned. Lily had breezed through most of her pregnancy so far. She had been more than energetic and not at all plagued by many of the discomforts associated with pregnancy. Also, his Lily was naturally sunny and optimistic. It wasn't like her to be as anxious as she was now, especially without a good reason. When they got back to the mayor's mansion, Kevin gave his darling Lily's hand a gentle squeeze. "Lily, is there some reason you think something might be wrong with the babies?" Lily sighed. "No, not with the babies. I felt silly bringing it up with Serafina, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something strange was going on in the mayor's mansion. I'm worried it might be affecting the babies. But Serafina confirmed that everything was fine. I'll try to put it out of my mind.
Kevin frowned. Anything that caused his adored Lily even the slightest worry was a concern for him. Something strange with the house? What do you mean?
The other night, I woke up in the wee hours. I went to get myself a snack. You know how I'm hungry at the strangest times these days, Lily began.
Kevin nodded and motioned for her to continue.
Well, as I entered the kitchen, I heard the strangest noises coming from the basement. Lily went on, clanging and scraping, and occasionally a really loud thud. It wasn't the first time I'd heard sounds like that, but when I went down into the basement to check it out, I couldn't find anything amiss. There was nobody there. Everything was in its place, and even that old vault left over from the Prohibition era when bootleggers were using basements in houses like these was shut up tight still.
That is strange, Kevin agreed. Do you have any theories about what it could be?
Well,
Lily looked away blushing. Kevin gave her hand another gentle squeeze. Come on, Lily. You know you can tell me anything.
I know it might sound silly, Lily told him, but I thought that since this house is so old, and it has seen so much that maybe perhaps it is a little bit
haunted, laughed a voice from the stairs. Lily and Kevin looked up to see Lily's pregnancy pal Nancy coming down the stairs. Really, you can't be serious, Lily. There's no such thing as ghosts. Nancy laughed again as if it was the funniest thing that she had ever heard. But inside, Nancy wasn't laughing. She had no idea that Lily had overheard the noises coming from the basement. Nancy had thought that the thick walls of the old vault left over from the Prohibition would have also been soundproof enough to prevent anyone upstairs from hearing, as Nancy unboxed the surgical equipment Juanita Hernandez had been secretly shipping to Nancy at the mayor's mansion. The equipment was far heavier than Nancy had ever supposed it would be. If she had actually been pregnant, she might have worried about the strain of moving it around so much. But Nancy was only faking her pregnancy, a double pregnancy, to keep up with Lily. In fact, Juanita Hernandez had been paying Nancy to keep a close eye on Lily. Juanita had her own nefarious plans for the future of the Williams twins, but for now it was Nancy's job to make sure Lily stayed as healthy as possible. Come on, Nancy told Lily. A couple of cups of that nice pregnancy tea I've been getting for you will be just the thing to soothe your nerves and make you feel 100 times better.
That sounds like a great idea, Lily agreed. Kevin, could you please take Hank the dog for a walk? I don't think he's been out since this morning.
I'd be happy to, Kevin told her. But I may have to go on another trip soon. We may need to look into getting a regular dog walker for Hank now that we've moved back into the city. Hank had only joined the Williams family after they had moved to the suburbs. City living meant that the canine would have to be more patient with his personal needs. Nancy led Lily to the kitchen at the back of the house and sat her at the big table there. She started the tea while asking Lily probing questions about her visit with Dr. Serafina Willow. Nancy knew that Juanita always wanted updates whenever Lily went to her doctor, and Nancy could usually use the report to coax more money out of Juanita. Nancy was just setting the cups on the table when a knock came at the back door. Lily started to rise, but Nancy motioned to her to sit again. Don't worry, I'll get it. Nancy opened the door to find a large man in a delivery uniform with a cap pulled low over his face, casting it in the shade. He had a file box under one arm and an electronic signature machine in one hand. I have a delivery for Mayor Lily Williams, the man intoned flatly. There was something familiar about the man, but deliveries were always coming to the mayor's mansion, and perhaps Nancy had seen him on a previous delivery. I'll sign for it. The mayor is currently busy. Nancy tried to take the box from his arms, but he held onto it. I can't do that, ma'am. I need to deliver this into Mayor Williams' hands personally. This is top secret city government business.
What kind of top secret city business?
A skeptical voice asked from behind Nancy. Nancy turned to see Lily standing right behind her, her arms crossed in an uncharacteristically suspicious look on her face.
And if it's official business, why did you come to the back door?
Lily pushed past Nancy, shoving her pregnancy pal protectively behind her.
She tore the box from the large delivery man's grip easily and ripped off the lid. "There's nothing in here," Lily declared, staring into the empty box.
"Okay, you got me."
The man ripped off his cap, revealing his face. "Oh my God, it's Sid Magnolia's brother, Sonny," Nancy shrieked. "That's the man who attacked me in the parking lot."
"Don't worry," Sonny sneered. "I'm not after you anymore, Toots. I'm after the mayor. She's the one who is really responsible for my brother's death."
Lily drew herself up to full height. "That's not true. Yes, I broke your brother's arm, but only because he attacked us first. However, the medical examiner couldn't find any evidence that it was actually what caused Sid's death. Otherwise, I'd be in jail right now."
"Yeah, right."
Sonny took another step forward.
"I've been looking into your family, Mayor Williams. Your husband has more money than God, and the medical examiner is so corrupt that he would skin his own mother if he thought he could make a buck off of selling her hide."
Sonny raised his chin defiantly.
"Justice might have failed Sid, but his brother sure won't."
He reached for Lily, grabbing her by the shoulder. She twisted easily out of his grip, grabbed his wrist in both of hers, and wrenched it up behind his back. Sonny screamed in pain. He tried to kick Lily with his heavy boots, but she released him and skipped out of his way. "I am very sorry for your loss, Mr. Mangolia, but I am not responsible for Sid's death. If you leave right now, I won't have to hurt you anymore," Lily warned him. She had a sense of fairness that was as well developed as Kevin's. She hated to cause a grieving family member more pain, but she had to defend herself and her babies.
"You're the one who's going to be hurt," Sonny roared. "You're just a woman, and you're pregnant. You're no match for me."
He pulled his fist back to punch Lily in the face. But almost quicker than the eye could follow, Lily grabbed a cast iron frying pan and got it up, blocking the blow. Sonny howled as the bones in his hand shattered. Lily followed up with several blows of her own with the frying pan, hitting him across the shoulder and hip. Sonny stumbled back toward the door with every hit. Lily drew back the pan and smashed it over his head. Sonny fell backward out the door and down the stairs unconscious. He landed at Kevin's feet just as he returned from his walk with Hank. Kevin looked from the man to Lily standing in the doorway. She was still holding the pan and smiling proudly at her accomplishment. She looked like a pregnant warrior goddess. "Everything okay here?" Kevin asked. "Just peachy," Lily replied. "Will you contact your Radiance team and have them take out that garbage?" Lily said as she pointed the frying pan toward Sonny. "I'd be happy to," Kevin replied. Lily stepped back so he could come through the door. "And I'm delighted to see that you're feeling better," he added. Lily smiled sheepishly. "Well, if I can take on somebody like that hulking creep and win, I guess a few ghosts are nothing to worry about." "No ghost would stand a chance against you, my darling Lily," Kevin agreed and kissed her on the cheek.